Hey everyone, we're SchemaSecure, here to solve a major Snowflake challenge: scalable, secure, and efficient access control. The problem at hand is object-level privileges don't scale, and database-level access creates security risks by exposing too much data. The solution? SchemaSecure. We enforce structured access control at the schema level with a simple, one-time setup. Each schema gets two roles: read-only for controlled data access, read-write for users who need to modify data. Let's see it in action with these three real-world use cases. Let's dive in.
Thanks, Richard. The first use case is granting access on a couple schemas to these two roles. On the left-hand side, you can see how this would happen with a manual setup. And on the right-hand side, I'll walk you through how we would do this with SchemaSecure. On the left-hand side, we have a really large block of code that grants these accesses. In reality, it's an abbreviated list that it's probably only about half the size it needs to be to account for all Snowflake object types. I'll go ahead and kick off this list of 91 grants. As we're waiting on this, I'll show you how we would do the same thing with SchemaSecure in a streamlined manner. The first step would be to create the schema access roles that actually contain these privileges that Richard was talking about. To do this, a customer can either execute the stored procedure we provide, or they can use our Streamlit app if they'd like a graphical user interface. I'll use this approach and select these three schemas and set up their access roles. Once this is done, we can switch back and see that we only have 4 grants that we need to execute to do the same thing as these 91 grants over here, as well as cover all access for additional Snowflake object types that are not covered in the manual approach. I'll go ahead and kick these off. And that's it. Now we have secure, simplified, easily auditable access established. Okay, our second use case, auditing access. Let's say our administrator wants to know what access the dev role has, so they come in and execute this show grants command. You can see we have 84 records returned. This is a very abbreviated list because this is a sample database. In reality, we would have probably something in the thousands or tens of thousands. This is problematic for 2 reasons. It's very hard for a Snowflake administrator to really understand and parse through all these records, and they don't know what potentially is not here. We can see, for example, that there are a lot of tables that this role has access to in the same schema, but maybe there is 1 or 2 key tables missing, and those kind of things are hard to spot. On the right-hand side with SchemaSecure, we can execute the same command to get the grants, and down in the bottom, we see a much more simplified list. We see that the role has usage on 3 database roles, which gives them read-only access to the sales schema, read-only access to the operations schema, and read-create, or in other words, read-write access to the staging schema. So with this, a Snowflake administrator can very easily tell what privileges someone has, what schemas they can access, and what type of operations they can do on those schemas. These access roles are always created in a very consistent, standardized fashion, so an administrator knows exactly what privileges they contain, such as select on all tables in a given schema, and that way administrator isn't left with questions. Our last use case, Snowflake releasing a new object type. This happens on a regular basis as Snowflake introduces new features for things like AI and ML. One recent example is the introduction of iceberg tables. Manually, an administrator would need to do a lot of research of existing privileges and then generate and execute potentially thousands of grants so that every role could use the new object type for every schema that they had access to. But until this access is done, the users can't use these new object types, so they're left without being able to take advantage of these new features. On the left, we can see how we would do this with a very abbreviated example. For iceberg tables, for just 2 roles for 3 schemas, this takes 9 grants. And on the right with SchemaSecure, you can see we would simply push an update to our app, and which would happen automatically in the customer's account, and they would simply execute SchemaSecure a second time in order to take advantage of the new features. Now I'll hand it back to Richard to understand what this really means for Snowflake customers.
And that's SchemaSecure. It makes access management effortless. It enforces least privilege. It eliminates manual privilege updates. It grants instant access to new Snowflake features. It streamlines access reviews. And with SchemaSecure, access is simple, secure, and future-proof. Thank you.